It was one of those Fridays that dragged on forever, the kind where the clock seems to mock you with every tick. I'd been at my job as a graphic designer for a mid-sized marketing firm in downtown Seattle for over 8 hours, staring at pixelated screens and tweaking ad campaigns for clients who couldn't decide between bold and bolder. My eyes were strained, my back ached from the ergonomic chair that wasn't as ergonomic as advertised, and my stomach growled in protest. The only thing keeping me going was the thought of the groceries I'd ordered earlier that morning. I'd used one of those app-based delivery services, Instacart, I think it was, and splurged a bit. A nice ribeye steak, fresh organic strawberries, a bag of artisanal chips, some gourmet cheese, and a bottle of that fancy sparkling water I liked. It wasn't extravagant, but after a week of deadlines and micromanaging bosses, it felt like a well-deserved treat. Total came to about $85, which stung a little on my budget, but hey, self-care, right? As I packed up my laptop and headed out of the office, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, expecting maybe a text from a friend, but it was the delivery notification. Your order has been delivered, it read, complete with a photo attachment. I tapped it open and saw the familiar sight, 2 brown paper bags bulging with goodies, placed neatly on the doormat outside my apartment door. The mat was the one I'd bought last year, with the cheesy, home sweet home embroidery that my ex, Lisa, had always teased me about. Door number 407 stared back at me in the photo, confirming it was mine. I smiled to myself as I climbed into my beat-up Honda Civic and navigated the rush-hour traffic. Home was only a 20-minute drive away, but in Seattle's perpetual drizzle, it felt longer. Rain pattered against the windshield, the wipers swishing rhythmically like a metronome counting down to relaxation. By the time I pulled into the parking garage of my apartment building, the sun had dipped below the horizon, casting the city in a gray twilight. The building was an older mid-rise in Capitol Hill, with creaky elevators and thin walls that let you hear your neighbor's every argument. I'd lived there for 3 years, the last 2 with Lisa. We'd met at a coffee shop down the street. She was a barista with dreams of opening her own cafe, and I was the awkward guy spilling his latte. It started cute, but it ended messy. A month ago, we'd called it quits after too many fights about money, schedules, and her habit of borrowing things without asking. She accused me of being too controlling, I accused her of being unreliable. In the end, she moved 2 floors down to apartment 207, subletting from a friend. It was supposed to be temporary, but knowing Lisa, temporary meant until she found something better, or someone better. I jogged up the stairs to avoid the slow elevator, keys jingling in my hand. My mouth watered at the thought of searing that steak with some garlic butter. But when I reached my door, the smile vanished. The doormat was bare. No bags. No groceries. Just the faint outline of where they'd been, maybe a stray raindrop or 2. My heart sank. At first, I rationalized it. Maybe the driver had the wrong door. I pulled out my phone again and double-checked the photo. Nope, definitely my mat, my door. The timestamp said delivery at 5:45 p.m., and it was now 6:15. 30 minutes. Plenty of time for someone to snag it. I scanned the hallway, hoping against hope that a well-meaning neighbor had grabbed it to keep it safe. Mrs. Patel next door was always borrowing sugar, maybe she thought it was hers. I knocked lightly on her door. She opened it a crack, her gray hair peeking out. Oh, hi, Alex. Everything okay? Yeah, did you see my grocery delivery? It was left out here. She shook her head sympathetically. No, dear. I've been inside watching my shows. Maybe check with the front desk. The front desk was unmanned after 5 p.m., so that was a bust. I paced the hallway, frustration building. Who steals groceries? It wasn't like they were valuables, just food. But then, a nagging thought crept in. Lisa. She knew my routine inside and out. Fridays were grocery day because my shifts ended early-ish. She'd even helped me set up the app account back when we were together. And she still had a key to the building's main entrance. The more I thought about it, the more it fit. She was petty like that. During our breakup, she'd accidentally taken my favorite hoodie and claimed it was hers. This felt like an escalation. Anger bubbled up, hot and sharp. Those weren't just groceries. They were my unwind ritual, my little victory over a crappy week. I whipped out my phone and texted her, "Hey, did you take my groceries by mistake?" They were delivered to my door. I watched the three dots dance on the screen, appearing, disappearing, like she was crafting the perfect excuse. Finally, her reply popped up, "Oh wow, those were yours. I thought they were mine. Already unpacked them though. Sorry. Sorry. That was it? No, I'll pay you back or let me grab what I can return." Just a casual oops, like she'd bumped into me on the street. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Part of me wanted to fire back something nasty, call her out on her BS. How could she think they were hers? The bags had my name on the receipt stapled to them, I'd seen it in the photo. But yelling wouldn't help. Lisa thrived on drama, it was her oxygen. If I stormed down there, she'd twist it into me being the crazy ex. Instead, I took a deep breath and set my phone down. I poured myself a glass of water, the only thing in my fridge was some wilted lettuce and half a carton of milk, and sat on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen. Revenge fantasies played out in my mind, reporting her to the building manager, posting about it on the neighborhood app, even calling the police for theft. But that seemed overkill for $85 worth of food. No, if she wanted to play petty games, I'd play smarter. Calmer. I'd wait for the right moment. The next morning, Saturday, I woke up groggy and still annoyed. I'd ended up ordering takeout pizza the night before, which sat heavy in my stomach like regret. I decided to hit the gym in the building's basement to blow off steam. As I headed down the stairs, gym bag slung over my shoulder, I passed the second floor. And there it was, a large cardboard box sitting outside apartment 207. Lisa's door. The label was bold and unmistakable. Blue Apron, one of those premium meal kit services. She'd bragged about subscribing to it during our last argument, saying it was classier than my grocery hauls. The box looked heavy, probably packed with perishable items, meats, veggies, sauces, all portioned out for fancy recipes like herb-crusted salmon or truffle risotto. I could almost smell the potential spoilage through the cardboard. I paused, glancing around. The hallway was empty, the building quiet in the early morning hours. An idea sparked, wicked and precise. I didn't need to steal it, that would make me no better than her. No, I'd use her own laziness against her. The box had probably been delivered yesterday evening, judging by the slight condensation on the sides. Meal kits like that came with ice packs, but they only lasted so long, especially in a warm hallway. If it sat there all day. I straightened up and knocked on her door, firm but polite. Footsteps shuffled inside, and after a moment, the door cracked open. Lisa stood there in her oversized pajamas, hair tousled, eyes bleary from sleep. She looked surprised to see me, a flicker of guilt crossing her face before she masked it with a forced smile. "Alex? What are you doing here?" "Hey," I said, keeping my tone neutral, even friendly. "Just wanted to let you know there's a package out here with food in it. Looks like one of those meal kits. You might want to grab it before someone else does." Her eyes widened, and she leaned out to peer at the box. "Oh my God, that's mine. When did it get here?" I shrugged casually. "Not sure. I just noticed it on my way down. Figured I'd give you a heads up." She rushed past me, scooping up the box like it was a lost puppy. Thanks, I guess. I must have missed the notification. She hauled it inside, the door clicking shut behind her. I continued to the gym, a small smile tugging at my lips. The seed was planted. Now, I just had to wait. The workout was cathartic, weights clanging, treadmill humming, sweat dripping as I pushed through sets. By the time I finished an hour later, I felt clearer-headed. Back upstairs, I showered and made coffee, settling into my weekend routine. But my mind kept drifting to that box. How long had it really been sitting there? Blue Apron deliveries usually came with dry ice or gel packs, but in Seattle's mild weather, they'd melt after 6 to 8 hours. If it arrived yesterday afternoon. Around noon, I heard the first signs of trouble. Raised voices echoed up from the lower floors, Lisa's voice, shrill and frustrated, arguing with someone on the phone. I cracked my door open a sliver, eavesdropping shamelessly. But the photo shows it was delivered on time. No, I didn't check until this morning. The ice is all melted, the chicken is slimy. This is unacceptable. I paid $120 for this. I stifled a laugh. Bingo. The company wasn't budging on a refund because, per their policy, customers were responsible for retrieving packages promptly. The delivery photo, much like mine, proved it arrived intact. Lisa's oversight had cost her a pricey meal kit, now destined for the trash. A few hours later, as I was scrolling through Netflix, my phone buzzed. It was her. "You could have told me sooner," the text read. It was sitting there all day yesterday. Now everything's spoiled, and I'm out a lot of money. I leaned back on the couch, savoring the moment. My fingers danced over the keyboard. I did tell you. Right after you took my groceries and didn't offer to replace them. Guess it sucks when food goes to waste, huh? Radio silence. No dots, no reply. She'd been checkmated. That weekend, I reordered my groceries, this time opting for signature-required delivery. The driver handed them over personally, and I tipped him extra. As I unpacked the bags, steak still cold, fruit ripe and unbruised, I fired up the stove. The sizzle of meat hitting the pan filled the apartment, mingling with the aroma of garlic and herbs. I plated it up with a side of roasted veggies I'd added to the order, poured a glass of wine, another splurge. And sat down at the small dining table that used to seat two. For the first time in weeks, the apartment didn't feel empty. It felt like mine. The breakup had left scars, trust issues, lingering doubts about my judgment, but this petty saga had cauterized them somehow. Revenge wasn't about destruction, it was about balance. Lisa had taken something from me, and the universe, with a little nudge from good timing, had returned the favor. As I savored the last bite, my phone stayed quiet. No more texts, no knocks on the door. Peace settled in, warm and satisfying. And in that quiet, I realized, sometimes, karma doesn't need a thief. It just needs someone patient enough to let it unfold. But let's rewind a bit, because this story didn't start with stolen groceries. It started months earlier, in the slow unraveling of a relationship that once seemed unbreakable. Lisa and I had been together for 2 years. She was vibrant, the kind of person who lit up a room with her laugh and her wild ideas. She'd drag me to impromptu picnics in Gas Works Park or late-night karaoke bars where she'd belt out 80s hits off-key but with infectious energy. I was the steady one, the planner, balancing her chaos with my spreadsheets and schedules. It worked, until it didn't. The cracks appeared around money. Lisa was always chasing the next big thing. Barista courses, coffee bean imports for her dream cafe, expensive gadgets she swore were investments. I'd foot the bill more often than not, rationalizing it as support. But resentment built. Then came the flirting, harmless at first, she said, but I caught her texting an old flame. The final straw was when I came home to find her packing boxes, announcing she'd found a better opportunity downtown. Turns out, the opportunity was a guy named Mark, another barista with his own startup dreams. The breakup was ugly. Shouting matches in the hallway, her storming out with armfuls of stuff, some mine, some hers. She accused me of stifling her creativity. I called her selfish. In the end, she sublet 207 from a mutual friend, swearing it'd be short-term. Just until I get on my feet, she'd said. But weeks turned into a month, and her presence lingered like a bad smell. Living in the same building was torture. I'd hear her laughter echoing up the stairs, see her car in the garage. We avoided each other mostly, but little jabs crept in, a passive-aggressive note on the laundry room door about not hogging the machines, which I knew was aimed at me. The grocery theft felt like the culmination, her way of saying she still had power over my life. After the incident, I confided in my best friend, Jake, over beers at a local pub. "Dude, that's low," he said, clinking his glass against mine. "But you handled it like a pro. No drama, just poetic justice." "Yeah," I replied, but part of me wonders if I should have just let it go. Jake shook his head. "Nah, man. She needed a wake-up call. Besides, spoiled food. That's harmless compared to what she did." He was right. It wasn't about the money anymore, it was about reclaiming control. In the days that followed, I threw myself into work, landing a big client that promised a bonus. I even started dating again, casual coffee meets via apps, nothing serious. The apartment felt less haunted. A week later, I bumped into Lisa in the lobby. She was hauling trash bags, her face flushed. Our eyes met, and for a second, I saw the old vulnerability, the girl who'd cry during sad movies and make me breakfast in bed. But then her expression hardened. "Alex," she said curtly. "Lisa." She hesitated, then blurted, "About the groceries. I shouldn't have done that. I was pissed about the breakup." I nodded, keeping it cool. "Yeah, well, water under the bridge. Or spoiled milk, I guess." She winced but didn't laugh. "Look, I'll Venmo you the money." "Keep it," I said. "Consider it a lesson learned." She walked away, and that was that. No more texts, no more hallway drama. Rumors from neighbors said she was moving out soon, Mark had dumped her, and the cafe dream was on hold. As for me, Fridays became sacred again. Groceries delivered, steak sizzling, peace reigning. Revenge, it turns out, tastes best served cold. Or in this case, room temperature. But to truly appreciate the satisfaction, let's delve deeper into that fateful Saturday. After knocking on her door, I didn't just go to the gym and forget about it. No, the anticipation gnawed at me like a suspense thriller. Every rep on the bench press, I imagined her opening the box, the slow realization dawning. Would she notice the warmth immediately? Or would she unpack it blissfully, only to gag at the smell? Back in my apartment, I busied myself with chores, cleaning the kitchen, organizing my design files. But my ears strained for any sound from below. Around 11 a.m., the yelling started. Not just phone calls, I heard doors slamming, footsteps pacing. I pictured her, phone pressed to her ear, box contents strewn across her counter, the unmistakable stench of rotting meat filling her tiny kitchen. By afternoon, the building buzzed with it. Mrs. Patel stopped me in the hall. "Did you hear? That girl downstairs is having a meltdown over some bad food." I feigned ignorance. "Really? That's too bad." Inside, though, triumph surged. It wasn't schadenfreude exactly, more like closure. Lisa had always skated by on charm and excuses. This time, consequences caught up. That night, After her accusatory text and my reply, I slept like a baby. Dreams of beaches and freedom, no ex in sight. In the weeks that followed, life normalized. I adopted a cat from the shelter. A fluffy tabby named Whiskers who curled up on my lap during movie nights. Work promoted me to senior designer, with a pay bump that covered more than groceries. Friends noticed the change. "You seem lighter," Jake said. I was. The revenge hadn't just evened the score, it liberated me. No more looking over my shoulder, no more petty grudges. And if there's a moral here, it's this: sometimes, the best payback isn't action, it's inaction at the perfect moment. Let the ice melt, let the truth spoil, and watch karma do the rest.